One Nation has a young conservative movement voting for them, unlike the Liberals who don't fight any culture battles that need to be fought. People like One Nation are doing that on their behalf. But look, you mentioned the islands. I'd like to go back to that because some of our savvy political neighbours have tried to use the excuse of rising sea levels on sinking coral atolls to scam hundreds of millions of dollars off us, the Australian taxpayer. You have written, and I quote, "The Pacific Islands need not fear about their islands physically sinking because of climate change, but they do need to fear their tourist sectors being destroyed and their economy sinking because of the zealotry of net zero." Now, my question to you is, Craig, do you think they might be forced to admit that net zero is a bit of a scam? And if so, do you think we're going to get our hundreds of millions of dollars back?
Look, these Pacific Islanders are not stupid. They know that if I'm a Pacific Island, if I'm a leader of a Pacific Island nation, I'm going to do every single stunt that I can and cry about climate change as much as I can, so I get all the cash from all these overseas governments, starting with Australia. I'll have Albanese over there and Penny Wong, and I'll put them in reefs, and I'll take them out to, we'll look out in the ocean solemnly about how the seas are rising and all my poor people are going to be washed away into the Pacific Ocean, right? But they need to be careful, because when they continue to give credence to this nonsense, and it is nonsense, because the peer-reviewed science is clear on this, that these islands are growing and not sinking. They're coral atolls that, as the coral reefs break down, that gets more sediment that goes on shore. They're growing. That's undisputed fact. Every inhabited coral island in the Pacific has grown. Also, I'd say it's about 90% plus are growing. You get some erode away slightly, but overall it is one of growth. Now, what my concern is, you said, these islands are also, they're reliant upon this foreign aid coming in from Australia crying under climate change and other nations. But their economies are really strongly based on tourism. And what can really damage these economies in the long term is if it becomes too expensive for Australian citizens, the average Australian citizen, to go for holiday to Fiji or the Solomon Islands or somewhere like that. That's what's going to really affect the economies of these countries. And then what's going to happen? They're going to be more and more reliant upon China. And China's going to come in and they're going to try and do deals to put military bases in these islands by giving them cash, because their economies are going to be so damaged. This is why this net zero nonsense is so damaging. And everything about it hands an economic, political and military advantage to the communist Chinese. And my great fear in the years to come is that more and more of these Pacific islands will be pushed into the hands of the communist Chinese to allow military bases on their shores, because they won't have the tourist income, because we stupid people in the West would have put all these absurd green taxes on airfares, which just make it, as I said, too expensive for people to travel.
Well, you're completely right, Craig. I mean, they've already got the blue memorandum between the Pacific Islands and China, in which the Pacific Islands that claim that global warming is being caused by coal and gas, selling all their coal and gas underwater straight to China, the world's largest polluter. And also now the new one is they're selling their ocean floors for all the rare minerals under there, and China's coming through and scraping all the ocean floors up to build virtuous e-cars and all sorts of things. But it is a massive problem, the growing influence of China, and it is being done under the banner of climate change. But all people want are honest politicians, Craig, and you've certainly come out to bat for Australia every day. Can you feel a new freedom-loving political movement in Australia just before we go?
Look, I can't. If you look at the polls, the recent polls, and I've been with One Nation now for a couple of months, and the polls are all heading in the right direction. We are up. The polls do bounce around, but we are it's much stronger position than we were at the last election. We're up over, if you take the average of the polls, we're up over 2% compared to where we were at the last election campaign. That is the biggest movement of any political group in the country. So we're getting stronger and stronger every day. There was a poll the other week that showed we're closing in on the Greens. It had us 8%, and the Greens at 10, had us up. So look, we're going to continue to fight on the issues that count for Australia. I think more and more people are waking up that the importance of a minor party like One Nation to keep the larger parties honest. The Liberal and Labor Party, the Liberal Party, if they're just left to their own devices, will drift off to the left and join hands in hands with the Liberals. We are the ones that are keeping them honest. We're keeping them honest on migration. We're keeping them honest on the World Health Organization treaties. We're keeping them honest. We tried our best on the digital ID bill to keep them honest, but we know they join hands with Labor on those things. But we're effectively the true opposition in this country, because we see on so many critical areas, the Liberal and the Labor Party are joining hands, and there's not a split hair difference between them.
As we say, Craig, we are one nation, Australia. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Senator Alexandra, great to be with you.